I'm 29 now, and one of the only things that's ever truly helped me clear my mind is going off-grid and camping. I'm not talking about campgrounds or public parks where there's families and noise. I mean deep wilderness, the kind of places where you feel like the last person on earth. Growing up in Northern California, I spent much of my adult life tracking down those quiet, hidden pockets of nature. This happened just a few months back. I had recently gone through a rough breakup and needed time away to just be alone with my thoughts. So I loaded up my truck with basic gear and set off without a real destination. I had a secluded spot along a river in mind, somewhere I'd stumbled on before. Not an official campsite, just a quiet bend down a forgotten dirt trail in the middle of nowhere. I got there late in the day, but as soon as I pulled off the main road and onto the trail, I noticed something that made my stomach tighten. 2 trucks already parked at the trailhead. A gray one and a white one. I didn't see anyone around, but just knowing other people were nearby kind of ruined the isolation I was craving. I sat for a moment, wondering if I should turn around, but I reminded myself that it was a long stretch of river. Odds were they were camped far enough away that I'd never see them. I hiked for about 15 minutes before spotting 2 men fishing. They looked like your typical backcountry types. Rugged, bearded, heavy boots, but something about them was off. As I approached, one quickly threw a jacket over something on the ground and awkwardly smiled. He called out something about target shooting at cans and not meaning to startle me. I nodded politely but said nothing. As I walked past, I couldn't stop thinking about the guy's weird, rushed tone, like he was overcompensating to sound normal. Still, I shrugged it off. People out in the sticks can be a little socially clumsy. I focused on finding my own spot to camp. Eventually, I found a decent area further down the bend. Thick trees, some privacy, and out of sight from the trail. I set up camp, cracked open a book, and let the sound of the river and a light drizzle calm me. Later, I wandered down to the riverbank to clear my head some more. That's when I noticed someone across the river. It was the same guy who'd spoken earlier. He waved, and I reluctantly waved back. He shouted across, asking my name. Without really thinking, I told him, "Anisha." He paused, then pulled something from his jacket. I thought it was a phone at first, but it looked more like a disposable camera. He lifted it and snapped a picture of me. Then, without saying another word, he turned and walked off. I was seriously unnerved. The awkward encounter was one thing, but randomly taking a picture? That crossed a line. I went back to my camp and decided to stay put for the night. As darkness fell, I crawled into my tent and tried to sleep, but my mind was spinning, replaying the breakup, the river, that photo. I don't know how long I lay there, but eventually I started hearing something faint, soft, deliberate footsteps on wet ground. At first, I chalked it up to rain or an animal, but the longer it went on, the clearer it became. Someone was circling my campsite. My heart dropped. I never go into the wilderness unarmed, and this trip was no exception. I grabbed my handgun, unzipped the tent, and stepped out into the rain. My flashlight beam cut through the trees, and there he was, the same guy, just standing there, half hidden behind a tree, holding a small axe. He didn't look angry or happy, just blank, like no one was home behind his eyes. The worst part wasn't the axe. It was how eerily calm he seemed. I raised my gun and, forcing my voice steady, warned him, "Leave now or I'll shoot." He didn't even flinch. Then he mumbled something chilling, that his friend Ivan told him not to come looking for me, and that he'd already taken care of Ivan. I didn't wait to hear more. I fired a warning shot into the trees above him. He flinched, clearly startled, and I gave another warning. "Drop the axe." This time he listened. Relief washed over me, but I stayed alert. I made him remove his shoes to slow him down if he tried to follow me, and checked him for more weapons. Then I made him toss out my gear where I could see it. I kept my gun trained on him the entire time, packed the essentials fast, and tossed the axe into my backpack. I threw his shoes far into the woods and told him to walk the other direction. Only once he was out of sight did I turn and begin the hike back in the dark. through pouring rain. That was the most terrifying part. Stumbling through the forest alone, not knowing if he was following me. Both trucks were still parked when I made it back to the road. I jumped into my vehicle and sped off. As soon as I had cell service, I called the police and gave them a full report with as much location info as I could provide. I don't know if anything ever came of it, but I'm not going back to check. What haunts me the most is what he said about Ivan. I don't want to know what he meant by took care of him. I'm just thankful I had a weapon that night. It might have saved my life.